Now, no one is pushing me out. I'm not leaving. I'm in this race to the end. That from the US President Joe Biden as he's vowing to stay in the 2024 US presidential race. A series of calls and meetings with Democratic lawmakers and governors as he seeks to shake off calls for him to drop out after his shaky debate performance last week. Biden even urging supporters to pitch in a few bucks to help defeat his Republican rival Donald Trump as his supporters and staff rallied around him.
Look, I cannot lay out something that would change the president's mind. He has been very clear, and he's going to continue to build on the unprecedented record that he's been able to lay out for the American people. That's his focus right now.
Well, our international affairs editor Philip Turle is with me here on set. Philip, what's your reckoning? What are the chances that he could pull out?
To be honest with you, Stuart, I think nobody really knows right now. Joe Biden is remaining steadfast in his resolve to stand to run as a candidate, but there is growing reticence, and I think support for him, not only nationwide in the US, but also within the Democratic Party itself, is rapidly eroding. And I think there's also growing concern and anger maybe among some Democratic circles that this hasn't been dealt with already. And why is the president deciding to run in the race still when he visibly isn't up to the job? And I think all of this, of course, came to a head in the debate last Thursday with Donald Trump, where he seemed lost and confused. Now, Karine Jean-Pierre, who we were just hearing from there, the White House spokesperson, has said that this is all down to two things. One is jet lag. The other one is a bad cold. But I don't think anybody really believes that in the US. There is a much more profound and worrying reason for all of this. And it's basically that Joe Biden is 81 years old. He's an old man. He's not in as good form as he used to be. Even last week in North Carolina in a rally, he said, you know, I'm not as good at debates as I used to be in the old days. I'm no longer as young as I used to be, but I'm still determined to tell the truth and to fight for the rights of the Americans. Well, that's fine, but maybe it's not good enough if you have a candidate who's going to run for another 4 years. I think what we're going to see now, Stuart, is that in the next week, it will be the deciding week, because Joe Biden has an interview on television on ABC tomorrow. That will be, I think, widely watched by many to see how he reacts, how he's going to answer the questions. And then next week there is the NATO summit taking place in Washington, and there's going to be a press conference with Joe Biden then. I think there will be everyone watching for signs that he is not in control, not able to reply properly, confused in his answers, and that will either precipitate more demands for him to stand down or will consolidate those who say Joe Biden is perfectly able to become president again, to run for another 4 years. He's totally in control and he knows exactly what's going on. We really don't know right now exactly which way this is going to go.
There's another fundamental question, though, isn't there? If he pulls out, is that going to help the Democrats' chances of beating Donald Trump or not?
Well, if you look back in time over former situations, not like this one, but where there have been candidates running for re-election, it doesn't bode very well for Joe Biden right now. If you go back to the 1970s, for example, Gerald Ford won the party nomination. He didn't manage to get re-elected. He was beaten by Jimmy Carter. Jimmy Carter then tried to be re-elected for a second term. He didn't manage that either. He won the nomination, but he was beaten by Ronald Reagan. George W. Bush, he didn't manage either to be re-elected. He was beaten by Bill Clinton. And Lyndon B. Johnson is another case. Back in the 1960s, he was running for re-election. He decided to pull out of the race, which is what many are saying that Joe Biden should do. He was replaced, and the Democrats went on to lose the election. He was replaced by Richard Nixon. So the historical precedents don't look very good for Joe Biden. I think that's why many in the in the Democratic Party are worried that if Joe Biden does pull out of the race at this point, which is extremely late, it's going to pose a severe problem, not only for finding another candidate, but also for funding, because the money that is up front been put up for the campaign won't be transferable to another candidate who's not in the Biden-Harris race. So we're talking about $91 million here. And if you look at what could happen is if there is a new candidate, they'll only be entitled to have $2,000. So they have to start a whole new campaign in raising money. And on top of that, there is the Democratic National Convention, which is due to take place next month. How will that be handled? Will there be an open convention? We don't know who the candidate is, or will Joe Biden be voted as the candidate, receive the nomination for presidential candidate? All of that is totally up in the air. We're in uncharted waters right now.
And you talk about finding a candidate. If they have got to find a candidate, who could that be?
Well, I mean, all eyes are on Kamala Harris, who is the vice president. She has stood 100% behind Joe Biden in all of this, saying that she will not move and he is perfectly capable of becoming president. So she could run if Joe Biden stands down and keep the party funding because she's part of the Kamala Harris ticket. There's also Gavin Newsom, the California governor. He's 56 years old. He's made California into a haven for abortion access. He's very critical of Donald Trump. He's got presidential ambitions. That's absolutely certain. Gretchen Whitmer, the 52-year-old governor of Michigan, she's made it pretty clear she's interested in running. She's a really fierce critic of Donald Trump. And there's also Josh Shapiro. He's the governor of Pennsylvania. He's also someone who is considered a possible alternative to Joe Biden. I think they are probably the four main Democrats who could take his place. But I mean, as I was saying, this is all very late now. And is it too late to change? Would it change anything anyway? And where does that leave Joe Biden? Is Joe Biden going to pull out of the race? He's made it pretty clear he's not going to do that. So all is up in the air. The only problem for the Democrats is that the performance last week in the debate with Donald Trump has affected Joe Biden's rating in the opinion polls. He's now on 41% compared to 49% for Donald Trump, and that is another headache for the Democrats.
Yeah, crucial few days ahead. Thanks very much, Philip Turle, International Affairs Editor here on France 24.